Welcome to the Borderlands Trail and Ultra Running Podcast. It's going to be a good day. Borderlands. All right, there's a lot going on today. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. There's not a whole lot of announcements to make, so we're just going to go right into it. Wolfie had a big weekend, a huge weekend, and we're going to get into that. He was at Black Canyon. He was pacing. He got to see what top 10 feels like, maybe again, but a very special race for the runner he was with. Not going to spoil it. We're going to get into all that. First thing that we're going to do is talk about something that we're calling the states debates. And I don't think you're ready for this, but we're going to go ahead and introduce it because we have opinions on how fans should be fanning within this sport. And one of them is to get real excited about our marquee event sooner and start to get emotionally invested in it sooner. And so we're going to kick off something called the states debates. Today we're just going to talk about them. We're not going to actually do them. And then also we've got some listener calls. But couched in there, it's a very special day because today we're going to couch in a Bad Runner's Take. We're going to couch Wolfie's World episode 10. 90% of podcasts don't make it to episode 10. That's what I've heard. And so we're going to make a big deal out of it because that is something worth celebrating. So here we are. Welcome to Bad Runner's Take.
It's a bad runner's take. It's a bad runner's take. It's a bad runner's take. He's the Kipchoge of running back.
All right, Brian, welcome. I'm stoked. We've got a lot to do here, but I'm glad that you're with me. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Still buzzing from the weekend. It's been incredible. So, I figured we had to do something special for the weekend and the 10th episode. So, this one's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm pumped. So let's jump right in. Again, we got three things happening today. We're going to intro something we're calling the states debates. We've got Wolfie's World episode 10 that we're going to couch in here, and then we're going to do some listener calls.
You bet.
So here we go. The states debates. Now, I was in a stupor over the last week. I'd been very sick. We had some illness going through the house here, and Brian and I have been talking about this idea because Brian is a really great debater in person and quick on his feet. And I am more of like, I would have been great, like, in the 1700s when you're writing letters back and forth, fight, because I'm a great writer and thinker of my thought, and I'm going to go on a run and I'm going to think through it. But I am the epitome of the jerk store episode from Seinfeld when George cannot come up with a rebuttal in the moment. But he thinks about it and then he comes up with it and he goes and tries to deliver it later. That's me. So I want to step back because I am keeping Wolfie from experiencing, a great debate sometimes because I'm just conscientious in the moment, trying to understand. So as we lead up to Western states, we want to see some debates start to happen. And we are a long ways out, we know. But there are some debates that should happen now that's going to set us up for the great debates as we know the field. So we're calling it states debates. Brian, do you want to put more flesh on that?
Yeah, man. I mean, quite simply, I think, again, we're trying to capitalize the E in entertainment. And I think the way that, Western states gets covered a lot of the times is more analytical or informative to the audience. And a lot of times we have more fun in our, run groups, our DMs, talking shit amongst ourselves, with our run buddies about who we think our favorites are and, why we want to see them win and, why we think somebody else's picks are trash, right? And so, it's just the format that works. It's what kind of, ESPN or Fox Sports does with, any major sporting event as well. And so that's what I want to bring to the audience. It's not just so much for me to have a quality debate with somebody, but so the audience can have fun and, we can start talking about states in a way that builds momentum and buzz as the race draws closer. A lot of times I think, again, it's not until maybe the week or two before the race that we just get, a mass media dump of 10 to 15 minute interviews, with the athletes that are, pretty similar. Once you hear one, you kind of know the format and you're just hearing a slightly different nuanced take from the athlete. And then we roll into the race. And so, I think the state debate is going to be something fresh and new and something for everybody to get excited about.
Yeah. Okay. So, and to illustrate this point further, think about, for those of you who are football fans or are paying attention to the Super Bowl, regardless of how uninspiring the game was from just looking at the score in the middle of the night here in France, couldn't figure out how to find the thing on TV. Very uncompelling. However, you knew the storylines. Like you knew, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, of course, I'm partial to Patrick because he went to Texas Tech University, Lubbock, Texas. I've been following that guy since college. You know, he was the only quarterback that made my college ever look that great. But the point is that you know a lot about him.
Right.
And going into that game, you're emotionally connected. And they do a good job of the human interest pieces to bring in more people. Say what you will about the Taylor Swift element or whatever. What they're doing is they're bringing in narratives that draw more people in that care about the game. And it's not that's not a effort in philanthropy. That's let's grow the number of eyes so this thing becomes more valuable to ad sales and all of the marketing and merchandising that happens around it. If we were just more emotionally invested in Western States the day that it gets here, then it's not only is it going to be a more fun day, which I would already say it's one of the most fun days because I am already geeking out researching these runners long in advance, but not everybody's doing that. So if we could bring some of that energy early, it's not going to be every week, but sporadically, and then it'll become more and more frequent as we get closer. It's going to make us just care on game day even more.
Right.
That I guess that should say that's my dream outcome. Could we really go into that day as experts on people, excited about people, having like picking our horses, you know what I mean? Like getting invested in it. And so in order to get there, this is where States Debates comes in. And so we are on the hunt for somebody to take a position against Brian on essentially set it up.
Yeah, so just, again, kind of building out the funnel, right? So you start macro and, Western States is the premier 100-miler. It always was. It currently is. And, I think most people, in the audience think that it forever will be, but I think there's a question mark there about, is Western States vulnerable to remaining the premier 100-miler? And so, yeah, it'd be great to have a debate with somebody. Here's somebody who wants to take a stance, maybe, and support that Western State's going to be able to maybe see through some of the growing pains that might present itself in the next couple of years. Because I firmly believe, that Western States is vulnerable to being dethroned as the premier 100-miler in the United States. So, yeah, we'll start there. And,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's an open call. Anybody from the Western States board. You just had Billy Yang on. These are fun, lighthearted. Nobody's going to be taking themselves too seriously. I'm in no position of power to actually dethrone Western States. We fully concede that at the beginning. There's not going to be a winner or loser at the end of the debate. It's just going to be all for good fun. And at the end, again, it's the audience, the listeners that are going to win. So, yeah. Anybody else that you think might be, an entertaining person to come on and hold that position?
Yeah. I mean, like Dylan Bowman would be interesting.
Sure.
Isn't he on the board? I think he's on the board.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get Finn from Single Track over here to defend the position. Again, the position that we're looking for, who out there thinks that Western States will always be the premier 100-miler in America?
Or
because Brian's, is that right?
Yeah, or
is that what we're looking for?
Even softening it, maybe is deserving of, right? Like has such a rich history in the sport that, it should always be, right? So in some way, you're always in support of Western States remaining the premier 100-miler. And then we'll get into, tangents and, wormholes from there. But yeah, essentially that would be the angle. And, Corinne, welcome, always open to have her. She's a wealth of knowledge. So yeah, once I know who my opponent is, I know how much I've really got to study up because there are some scholars of the sport that, I would be on the firing line, in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So, okay. So make your case, submit an application, send me an email at hello@borderlands.cc, or you can DM Brian or me on Instagram. We're both pretty active there.
Yeah. Or if the audience has suggestions that we might've missed too, like just, flood us with thoughts directly from yourself, or if you've got suggestions that we should reach out to somebody, let us know.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Who do you think, who would you like to see debate? Because again, Brian is saying Western States is vulnerable and it may not be the premier 100-miler in 5 years. So we're looking for someone who just disagrees with that and wants to get into a spirited exchange with him on a future episode. So get in our DMs, send me an email, and we want to kick off the States Debates in the next couple of weeks. And this would be an awesome place to start. Again, we're macro, we're high level, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, and then it's going to obviously, get more specific as we get closer and the field starts to form, where we're going to actually be taking, 2 or 3, head-to-head picks, right? So you might see an episode or hear an episode where it's going to be like, Walmsley versus Roach, and somebody's going to come on and we're going to debate, those two guys, who's going to obviously take the W or have the better finish, right? Like, or,
Yep.
DNFs, right? Like, who are your top three vulnerable to a DNF position? So we'll have some more specific topics that we can dive into that are fun, right? Like, what's the weather going to be like, first to the river.
Yep.
There's just endless opportunities we can have fun with debating about things rather than
first to the river. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're talking like Vegas type stuff now.
Yeah. Super fun stuff, right? Yeah. And it's going to be fun rather than just telling you who our top 5 is or top 10, so.
Brilliant. I'm stoked. Okay. Now I don't know if we talked about this. This is what I think is the greatest podcast music there's ever been. I know that I'm the one who made it. It's not that it was this moment of inspiration. I was just a conduit from something on high. And all of a sudden, I've never written music like this in my life. But here we go. This is Wolfie's World, and it's his show after this music.
Wolfie, he's a fast, cold-hearted son of a bitch. Don't think that he don't care. Tears it down, builds it back. It's Wolfie's World.
Let's light it up, man. That's fantastic, right? I mean, I asked you for my own jingle just because you're the hit maker with your Bad Runners Take, the Elliot Cardin reference. You've got the hotline jingle. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so then, I was like, Wolfie's World needs something, and you throw this down, and it's like,
and it's its own personality. It's nothing like anything else in Borderlands. It's yours. It belongs to you.
Yeah.
You've got some funk
exactly
in your life.
Totally love it. So. Yeah, man, episode 10. I mean, you're the one who put that on my radar. I guess I wasn't even paying attention to this week being that monumental. Had no idea.
It's huge.
Yeah, had no idea statistics around that. So we're just building momentum.
Yep.
Yeah. So this weekend was Black Canyon. As listeners probably know, big fan and supporter of Norda. And, I've always followed along with some of the athletes that, that they support on the elite level. And I had gotten connected with Elliot Cardin back in 2023. He came out, stayed with us at the house, hosted him, went out to the race, crewed him, ended up pacing him during the section from Black Canyon City to Table Mesa. And it was an incredible experience. So 2024 comes along, and he was going to race and got sick. So he ended up pulling the plug. But 2025, again, open invite anytime he's wanting to come out and race Black Canyon. Me and the family are happy to support him and host him. And so, he came back and this weekend was incredible. That race live in person, I mean, for as much as we're critical and at times kind of shit on things, within Aravaipa, what they're building there in person is incredible. It's a fantastic race to follow in person. It's easy to navigate. It's basically, 3 crew stations, and each one has a bit of infrastructure built around it. So it's got a buzz, it's got TVs, it's got, lounging areas, it's got expos. So what they've created here with Black Canyon over the last couple years is, I think it's probably one of the best spectator experiences to take in, just because of its ease of access. And then just how consolidated each crewable station is with excitement and buzz, and the field being so deep. You have a tremendous amount of talent on both sides of the field. So, I reached out to you and just let you know how incredible the experience was. I didn't want to just go at it solo with Wolfie's World because, at times it opens me up to maybe missing things, or, I just wanted your perspective as somebody who tuned into the live stream to also contribute to the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, what's fun about us talking about this is you lived it and I watched it. And so it really could be an opportunity for really interesting perspectives here. And I feel like it could go a number of different ways.
Right.
I think the thing I just want to first hear about is like, what was it like to be with a top 10 finisher? Like I saw like cool footage of you, like you're taking Elliot's, handkerchief off his neck and you're tying a new one on. It's like a pit stop in F1. And I mean, just what's it like with the top 10 finisher at Black Canyon? What's that energy like? Yeah,
this is like the most important part right here, because I do fully understand the privileged position that's in, and it's truly a gift because of Elliot. Like Elliot is
Yeah.
so humble in his talent that he brings in somebody who's just an amateur fan of the sport, right? Like myself.
Hmm.
Like you talk about kind of imposter syndrome. Boy, did I ever feel it, because every
But you're so fast. Why do you think you feel that way? I mean, you and
well,
Schlarb
I'm not
seemed like you handled him really well.
I mean, well, I guess imposter syndrome in the sense that, like, so when you're in the front of the field, like you're pulling into crew to these crewable aid stations with all of the
Mm.
elite crew support, right? And so these guys
Yeah.
are like, the Boulder boys are there. So you got Matt Daniels, Moy, you've got Adam Mary. So just rippers on the elite level that are crewing Seth. And then, you know,
Yeah.
all of these guys within the field have fellow friends who were fellow elites that are all crewing them. So you look around and you're like, geez, man, like it's like that Sesame thing. Like one of these is not like the other. And that's where I
Yeah.
get the imposter syndrome. And,
Yeah. Okay.
but no, I mean, I'm capable of crewing him and, dialing in the, the type of, service or, attention that he needs during the race. And then, yeah, what is it like? I mean, it's essentially like being able to play 3-on-3 with your NBA idols, or
Mm.
go take batting practice with the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. I mean, whatever your sport is, it's the equivalent of doing that sport in the
Mm.
actual live event experience with them. It's incredible.
That's cool.
And I guess the way that you can duplicate that even if you're not in a position where you're connected to somebody who's on the elite level, by crewing for a friend that maybe is um, inspirational to you, right? And so maybe that's where you get fired up by seeing somebody else doing something that's just so unworthy or otherworldly to you, right? So
Yeah.
I would encourage anybody, like, find somebody who you admire for something, and get in close to the action, crew
Hmm.
them. Like, it's going to light a fire for you, and you're probably going to
Hmm.
learn some things along the way that you're going to take back with you, when you make your next ultra attempt.
Yeah. How I feel like if I were in that position, it would be impossible to be in that position and not be thinking about when my next race is. I
Oh,
mean, does that go through your head? Like, are you thinking race now as a result of that for yourself? Like, you want to get out there and do what Elliot did?
no, well, not until the race is over. So,
Mm.
as you're in the moment, you're very locked in and like feeling the excitement, the nerves, the anxiety. You're following the live stream to see how he's doing. Where is he
Oh,
holding
you
his
are?
position? Oh yeah, I've got. So that's what's great too. Is it's kind of like the guy that's watching the baseball game live with the AM radio
Oh,
in his
yeah.
ear, and
Yep.
he's
Sitting in the stands. Yep.
yeah,
With
he's
his
filling
radio.
out his own box score. Like that's kind of what it felt
Yep.
like. Is I'm sitting there listening to the live
Ah.
stream. They're showing drone footage of him traversing through the section before he gets to the aid station, and so yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
exactly. I'm not thinking about anything of myself at that time. And then I've got to make sure I'm staying on top of my hydration and fueling, because I'm going to
Hmm.
be able to go and pace them. And as the day's progressing, that's kind of getting a little bit more uh, anxious energy, because you're seeing he's hanging
Yeah.
in there, and he's still got golden ticket aspirations. He's still
Oof.
chasing the time that he had set for himself, big PB at the race, and so yeah, all of a sudden now you're pacing and bringing him into the finish, and you're putting a lot of pressure on
Hmm.
yourself to make sure that you don't do anything to jeopardize the result for him.
Yeah. I mean, when you're in the middle and back of the pack and it's pacing, I'll say on average, the pacer ends up moving slower than anticipated once they meet their runner. They're not
Absolutely.
pulling a negative split,
Right.
to put it nicely. But I got to imagine in a top 10 situation, there's got to be anxiety around that he might be going faster than you anticipated. And can you keep up?
Oh,
Because I would see on the live coverage that some people were coming in, some top 10, I can't remember who it was, top 5, top 10 women were coming in without their pacers, and their pacers were coming in far behind them. So someone who's capable like Elliot, who's, I don't want to overlook how ripped he is also. Like, that dude seems to be ready to go in multiple different sports. What's that feeling like to think that he might be going faster than you're ready for?
it's good. It's
Yeah.
I would say it's what I love about the sport. I got
Mm.
into the sport because I wanted to feel scared about what it was that I was about to go do, right? Like,
Yeah.
whether you're trying to run 100 miles in 30 hours or 100K in sub 8, like we all get on the start line scared, and questioning if we're capable of doing what we set out to accomplish. And that's
Yeah.
unique to ultra. Like
Yeah.
you get it a little bit in a 5K, half marathon, type race, because you're going more for speed, but it's not is the finish, in question. You're going to finish, but in ultra, the
Yeah.
finish is always in question. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I loved the nerves and concern. I felt confident that, again, I could hang regardless of the pace that he would be capable of doing. Again, 50 miles into his day, and after getting through all of the tough vert.
Yeah.
So when I picked him up, I was ready for him to even catch the second wind, and ultimately, hey, if he drops me, that's just more confidence to the runner to know like he's doing something special. He's putting in a
Oh,
push
cool. That's a
like,
great perspective.
hey, and he's also capable. He doesn't need me. If he's dropping me, then there's nothing that he
That's
needs.
so wild.
Right.
Yeah.
So
What do you guys talk about when you're like at the front of the pack? I mean, again, my perspective, middle, back of the pack, you're having conversations more often than not. You're saying, come on, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. That's not what's happening probably where you were at. What do you guys even talk about? Are you talking?
yeah, so that part he was going through a rough patch. The heat of the day, is at its most intense. GI issues, kind of present themselves, thirst, so when I pick him up, it's just asking basic questions of, hey, where are we at? What do you need? The way the race had played out, he was kind of in no man's land where it was about a 20K segment to the finish. And it was probably, at least a 7 to 8 minute gap to the guy in front. And then we were just kind of holding off about a same 5 to 7 minute, I think, gap to the runners behind us. So we really weren't being hunted, and we weren't really in a position to hunt either. And so those first, 6 to 7 miles was a rough patch for him. And so I was just giving him what I think I would need in that situation, which is, again, when I'm struggling physically, mentally, I try to remember everybody else out there that's rooting me on, or, really pouring their energy into me, in the universe. And so I was looking at the live feed, and man, Canada loves Elliot, man. He is a national treasure.
Yeah.
And I saw a bunch of people just cheering for Elliot in the live stream. And so that's what I let him know. I said, dude, you got Canada behind you right now. Like you don't even know
awesome.
how much love and support there is right now on the socials and in the live feed right now. Like, let's go put some respect on your name, because as I called out, he wasn't mentioned anywhere in the preview podcasts with, single track or, any coverage that Free Trail did. This guy's a proven competitor and just consistent as day at Black Canyon. He's gotten a golden ticket, in 2020, finished third behind Hayden Hawks and Charlie Ware. He almost had second place. I think he finished third by a few seconds. And in 23.
Why isn't he getting?
I think it's just,
I don't know his name outside of you. That's a funny thing to know. He got a golden ticket. How did I even miss that? Why isn't he getting more notoriety?
Yeah, well, it was 2020, so it was a different era for the sport.
It was a hard year.
But in large, I think it's Canada. I think Canadian athletes are in a tough position where they're not fully embraced by by the U.S., and then they're also not embraced by Europe. So they kind of fall in this kind of rock and a hard place. And then there's some language, probably nuance there. I think he speaks English fantastic for somebody that.
Yeah, I was going to say, is he Quebecois? I saw a lot of French on his posts.
Yeah. In fact, so he's so well known and recognizable that as we went through the expo and everything, everybody was coming up to talk to him, and it was all in French. And so I think that's probably something that contributes there. But from a just pure performance accolade at this race, I mean, there was no reason why he shouldn't have been, highlighted as somebody, with potential for top 10 and, legitimately an outside chaser for a golden ticket. And I mean, I think the result that he laid down today should put that to rest. I mean, put some respect on his name, because the dude showed up and threw down.
Dude, and let's not overlook his own personal accomplishment of the PR.
So we get
Huge. What was it? 8:10 originally?
correct something just shy of 8:10, I believe, or right on 8:10, and I think it was
Yeah.
yeah, like a top 10 place as well in 2023. And so yeah, I mean he comes back and yeah, it was 8:10 because it ended up being about a 22-minute PR at the distance. He had an angle of 7:45. I think coming in, he really thought that that was going to put him in a position for a
Gosh.
golden ticket. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's just where the sport's at right now. It seems like
Yeah.
these types of races, you have to be almost shooting at the current course record and then a couple minutes below it, to really be in the hunt. And so
Yeah.
once those top three guys kind of created that gap, it was a gap that just wasn't he couldn't close it or
Yeah.
make it up. But we pushed hard through that rough patch. The final aid station's about 5K out, and he got his legs back. Things smoothed out. So it was my intention to kind of set the pace there, just to make sure he kept it honest. There was nobody we were probably going to reel in at that time, and nobody that was really breathing down our necks. But I think I
Yeah.
wanted to put a punctuation on his day and get as close to that 7:45. So I took it out of the aid station first, and then we just started rolling like low 7-minute splits into the finish line. And I kind of intentionally wanted to get out a bit ahead of him to give him his own space to bring that race into a close, but also keep the elastic there where he kind of feels like he's chasing me. It builds confidence to know that he's not losing ground to me. And then I would just kind of, give a quick look over to make sure he's still there within eye shot. And it was great. And then all of a sudden you start seeing the drones come in, and I'm hooting and hollering like, "Ale, ale, ale, let's go!" And I see the on-course camera guy. I'm like, "It's Elliot Cardin. We're coming in. We're doing this." And then you start seeing
Yeah.
the trailhead come into view, and everybody's hollering for him, and you peel off to the side, and you soak it in. You see what you were a part of, and you're just in awe of like what these guys are capable of. And he's just such a cool dude, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a treat, man. Every year that he comes out here, it's like, the highlight of my running year. Like, I'm
That's
fired
awesome.
up to go race, but I know that like nothing that I go do now is going to be as thrilling as that was. And that's fine because, that's why I'm in the sport, I think. And that's why we're all in the sport. We get more joy and excitement out of seeing others' success or being a part of somebody else's success.
Yeah, I think one of my takeaways in hearing it is that this word pacer in like the ultra lexicon, really the connotation of pacer for the greater community, the average of the community, is essentially means companion, like a buddy to go with you. But what I'm hearing in top 10 is that you are genuinely targeting a pace.
Oh yeah.
Like you are legitimately a pacer, not a companion. And that's pretty, it's intuitive, but I just never have thought that far ahead.
And
That's interesting.
No, I'm sure that there were times there where, I was saying things to him that were in a companion like,
Sure.
similar to just like somebody who's, chasing cutoffs would get from their pacer, just again, saying things of encouragement, keep fighting, keep digging, whatever was struggling at that time, you just keep on giving them the positive reinforcement, that they otherwise wouldn't have if they were out there alone and just falling into their negative thoughts. So it's both. Yeah. It truly is both. I don't think that these elites get out there and are invincible. They have to face and sometimes, succumb to negative thoughts or doubts, just like everybody in the field.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to take a quick look at your Wolfie's World predictions. Do you know offhand how many on the men's and women's field obtained a course record, or how did you word it? Your prediction was 5 of the top 10 all-time fastest.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm certain that on the men's field, and I mean, it had to have been on the women's field too, because of just how fast the podium came in for the women. That's what I was on site for, and I haven't gone back to research it, but
yeah,
I would bet that based on the way that day went, that yes, that at least 5 of the 2024 results now are the all-time top 10. Because I believe Elliot's 7:48 became the 7th fastest time or the 8th fastest time. So he does now have a top 10 fastest result there.
And do you think it was just because, I mean, there was maybe a number of things, but it was just a great weather day? I
Um,
mean, Hayden got that course record in a really bad weather year, but he's also a Cedar City guy and he's used to snow.
Correct, right? Yeah. So the course probably ran a bit slower, or it took a bit more energy. It was a bit more energy draining last year when you had the
Mm.
snow and the mud, a bit
Oh, the
more
mud.
slosh in
Yeah.
the, in the higher part of the course that typically runs faster. So, maybe it ran, close to the same time, but it was probably a little bit more physically taxing to get through that section at the same pace than it was this year when it was bone dry. You know, there was no water in the river crossings. And in 23, when I paced Elliot through Black Canyon City to Table Mesa, you go through two river crossings, and they were
Hmm.
probably 30 to 40 feet wide with, knee high to mid thigh water that
Wow.
you're trouncing through. I mean, enough for you to kind of squat down and dunk yourself to cool off. And yeah, and this year they
Yeah.
got none of that. So
Wow.
yeah, that just shows how dry and fast the course was. I just think
Yeah.
it's
Well, there was,
these guys are getting better, man. They're just getting so much better.
it's wild. What do you, who all did you see out there? I mean, you've named some names, but it seemed like it was, from here at least, watching the coverage, it was a who's who
It was, yeah, and
of
it's not even
American
just
ultra
yeah,
running.
it's not even just the runners themselves. So like, uh, Jim was out. Him and his wife were, bouncing around some of the cruise stations. So
Oh, Walmsley?
yeah, fun to see, sighting of the American goat.
Yeah.
And yeah, and everybody's so approachable. You see him spending time and talking with everybody, taking pictures with everybody. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a great environment at that race. You had just a ton of the industry folks, so a lot of team managers there from
Hmm.
like Kraft. Who else did I see? That's the only one that's coming to mind right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I mean, you've got everybody in the top 10, and then their whole entire crew support. Grayson Murphy was out there, so I mean,
Yeah.
that there's a world champion quality runner that's out there
Yeah.
crewing. So yeah, I mean, you look to your right, you look to your left, and yeah, I mean, you're seeing Olympic quality talent out there that are just out
Yeah.
there, throwing ice bandanas around people and cheering on their runners, pacing them. It's incredible.
Who, how was the Satisfy aid station?
Oh, it was cool as always. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Was Brees there?
no. What I heard was there was and that was another interesting storyline. Is something happened with a lot of people getting some sort of stomach virus this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's all over Paris. So if Brees, I mean, that's what took me out last week. It
yeah.
is brutal.
So you had there was a Norda athlete, Kelsey. She got sick, and
Okay.
was a kind of a race day, decision, which I think just having invested so much into the training block and the travel, she ended up putting in a gutsy effort, I think, and dropped at 80K. Hans
Mm.
Troyer, somebody on the men's field that was a
Yeah.
really exciting name. It just signed with
Yeah.
Ultra, and I think a lot of people were looking to see what he would do at this race. He dropped race morning with the same type of thing. I
Hmm.
think high fever and stomach bug, and I think that's what happened to Brees too. I think someone was saying that he was there, but just in his hotel room, just not feeling it. So
Ugh.
yeah, that was kind of a storyline that unfortunately affected quite a few different people.
Yeah.
But yeah, the aid station's super cool. So you get to Bumblebee Ranch, and like, I mean, this is what's cool is like each aid station has its own character and they're epic locations. And so you're basically traveling down the 17 highway, which is kind of the Phoenix to Flagstaff corridor. And so as you drive all the way up to Mayer, where the start line is at, and then you just basically drive about 7 miles down to 17, and then you dip down off the 17 and drive down 3 to 4 miles of these dirt roads to get into the valley there. And yeah, you come into Bumblebee, which is the first
Mm.
crewable aid station, and it's an actual dude ranch. So it's a functioning ranch,
Ah,
and you
that's
can
awesome.
camp there. They do like chuck wagon cookouts. So like all year round, you can go there. And it's this huge,
Nice.
massive spread. It's like a little Ponderosa where it's all flat, beautiful. And then they have like they got like a functioning outdoor kitchen there. So you get breakfast burritos. I mean, the spread there is incredible. I wish I could hang out longer there, but once Elliot comes and goes, I'm hustling down to the next aid station because he's so fast. But later in the day, they've got a cool like country rock band that sets up and plays music, and
Yeah,
it's a really good time down at Bumblebee.
man, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Do we
so
know anything about prize money? Are we confirmed that
no,
there's
still,
none of it?
yeah, still no prize money. I think a lot of conversations, that I had, just amongst some of the people that were around, it's still a point of frustration or, just. Confusion.
Yeah,
And like I said, I mean, I think it's a bad assumption. We should stop assuming that a lot of these athletes with top 10 elite talent are professionally paid. A lot of these athletes
right.
would greatly appreciate, if they went and ripped a top 10 at the most competitive, fastest 100K in the United States. I just see some
Yeah,
comp coming their way. It's an expensive trip for these guys to travel to. Um, and these men and women, they put in so much that it would be nice to see, because it's again, I don't think it's something that sponsors should carry the load for. A lot of these guys
right.
and girls have brands that are like we've covered a lot, like challenger brands. They're newer brands to
Yeah,
market. They're brands that are having to be creative with how they support and
yeah,
invest in these athletes. And so these types of athletes that have those relationships, yeah, they would greatly benefit when they go out there and do something special. Some race day compensation. And yeah, I mean, geez, you look at the infrastructure and you look at the revenue coming in, you look at the title
yeah,
sponsors that are attached to this race, you look at the live stream coverage. It's really put together in a way that, like, this is an official event that just seems like it's almost insulting to the event itself, not just the athlete, that they don't have prize money.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's become a head scratcher. I'm working on a YouTube video that I want to do that's how to start an ultra marathon, like how to go through it, and it's a lot of it's going to be the economics
right.
to show, yeah, why it's really hard for a small race. It's hard for a medium sized race, but for a large race that's bringing in, let's even be pessimistic, 500,000 a year. Can you find, can you find 10 grand in there? I'm not saying it's easy. Also, there are sponsors out there who you could have be your podium sponsor
Right.
and come in and say all $15,000 of your money. I'm not saying that's easy. I'm just saying it's possible. It's doable. But what all the pushback I've heard from people who don't want to pay is that it doesn't have to do with the money actually being there. There's some other weird loyalty or weird principle in place that in our sport, paying the winners somehow spoils our sport.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You've nailed it on the head. That is something that I think we either have to age out of our sport, as some of those I
Yeah.
think who held that idea 10 years ago, you know, transition out, or yeah, there just needs to be a changing of the tide, a loud
Yeah.
enough rumbling, from people to let those people know that, like, it's okay. We're still going to accept the sport
Yeah.
every bit as much as we always have, and we're going to love it for its grassroots, you know, no frills type of dirtbag, culture and
Yeah.
community. Like, nothing would have been spoiled at Black Canyon with everything I've talked about if at the end of the day there was prize money. I wouldn't have come
Yeah.
away thinking like, oh man, I just went to some corporate event like a triathlon or Ironman, whatever it is that kind of, you
Yeah.
think you have a bad taste in your mouth with. So you're right.
Yeah.
And if it's
I mean, if,
something that's
but
worth doing, should be difficult. So, like, the fact that we
yeah.
talk about the prize money maybe being a difficult thing to navigate, like, okay, well, that's great, but it's worth doing for these athletes that, again, just lay it all out there.
Right. I mean, if you want to fight against the corporatism, look at, Satisfy's aid station. That was a massive investment,
Yeah,
but it gets a grassroots pass. Like, hey, this is, it's on the ground. It's serving everybody. Let's give them a pass. But the amount of money that goes into that aid station is 20 grand, 30 grand. I mean, if people are flying from Paris, if Tommy was there, if all the Satisfy players were there, you're looking at 2,000. If they're flying economy, which they probably are, they anymore? I don't know if they need to. That's a massive investment. And so I'm not saying that, Seth or whoever should have got 5 grand. But I don't think 500 is insulting. Like, let's start somewhere. If the case from Black Canyon side is we don't have that much, well, that's fine. Let's let's just start that. Let's write those checks. As a fan, it's going to give me a better product if we start that now. In 5 years down the road, if we start it now and that thing snowballs, I just think we're going to get a better spectator event.
Yeah, and again, and it's the golden ticket race is you can monetize that.
Yes.
Like, look at Bandera, look at Lake Sonoma. Look at these races that had a golden ticket race associated with them, and look at their attendance when it was a golden ticket, and look at their attendance now. Right? So,
Great
like, if
call.
you are benefiting from the elites showing up and the hype and spectacle that you can build around your race because it's associated as a golden ticket race directly because of these elites that are coming, then
Yes.
that's all the reason I need to say we need to kick some of that back to these guys and girls who are creating the increased revenue for these races. And don't ask me to accept, again, like you said, a $30,000 Satisfy aid station, but not accept prize money. So I'm going to hold out celebrating, these awesome things that Satisfy is doing for the event until we see the prize money coming in to really create a nice full circle, because everybody should be lifted up with the increased attendance, spectator, participants. Everybody's benefiting really, except for the elites, with what return they want for their investment of time and performance.
Yeah, and one case in point is that Free Trail is not going to Bandera if it's not a golden ticket.
No.
And if Free Trail brings a lot of eyes and ears, let's say, I don't know the number, let's say they bring 10,000 after, Instagram Reels and all that. Let's say they bring 30,000 eyes and ears onto your event. Black Canyon's getting all of that, and Free Trail's not capturing the demand it's creating. Black Canyon's is capturing it, and Free Trail's getting content in real time that they're able to, keep their business model going. So Black Canyon, again, benefits. Bandera, they're not going to get that treatment without that. So this is to say, having the golden ticket does equate to quantifiable and non-quantifiable advances in your event. And where it's quantifiable, if we can say you make more money because you're golden ticket, to me, that's the same thing as, Notre Dame or Alabama making money off of an incredible product on the field and not paying those players, which we have remedied, and I'm glad we have.
Right. And then it just trickles down into all the events. So Aravaipa has really built a fantastic organization, on the momentum of races like Black Canyon and Javelina that get, the entire, trail community activated. Cocodona, all of these races benefited from, 4 or 5 years of consistent attention on Black Canyon every year. Black Canyon, I think, really put Aravaipa on a national map, an almost international map now, with Aravaipa being, a household name. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's just tremendous value there associated to it. And not to belabor the point, again, these professionals, just seeing it on the inside, it would be outstanding.
It's crazy. Yeah.
To see them.
That's fun to see it from the inside.
Yeah. And, what's fascinating is that, like, in the 50K, there were two, I'm not going to remember their names now, Eric and Adam, I think. Yeah, don't quote me on that. But anyways, two well-known and accomplished triathlon members who had, like, big support on the live stream from the TTL, that Trail Life, or that Triathlon Life. It's like a YouTube channel of culture. And they showed up big for these guys. So it's going to be curious to see if we start seeing some crossover from sports like professional tri. These dudes aren't used to showing up, ripping an endurance race and not taking home prize money when they podium. He showed up, he went big and finished second place in that 50K. And it's probably the first time he's ever took home second place and didn't get anything.
Not some money.
Right. Yeah. So again, this is good. Let's bring in, I want to bring more professionalization to the sport, and the fact that we're seeing these other endurance athletes with huge talent, huge aerobic engines come into the sport and do some incredible things. Maybe they can be the ones that, can advocate and, maybe bring some other sponsors that aren't traditional into the sport that can help be that prize pool.
Yeah. I am interested in figuring out how to pay the winners of the American golden ticket races through Borderlands. I just want to make a point, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but at the very least, I'm just throwing it out there that it's on my mind. Like, I want to say thank you. And if I have an audience that we could mobilize to say, thank you for entertaining me, please do it again. Here's some money.
Right.
I'm open to trying something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because again, I tell you, on that podium, you're going to have people, who do have livable sponsorship money next to somebody who has nothing, and that's just,
you're right.
It just shows kind of like we said, we got to build out a better, middle class, a better livable wage off of the elite talent. There's plenty of runners with a tremendous amount of talent who, they don't get compensated quite for their performance. It might be for other factors, just, because again, the sport wants more marketable characters than performance results. So sometimes people are getting contracts based on social media followers, engagement, things that are really just, complementary to their performance or ancillary, right? It has nothing to do with the actual things they do during the race, but just the marketability of them and value to the brand to sell their product.
Well, before we transition into listener calls, I'm curious, what's the future of Wolfie's world? What do you, 10 more episodes? What are you seeing? Are there things that you've done in the first 9 that you're like, hey, I'm going to push more on that. I've liked it. Or do you still feel like you're feeling your way out to exactly what it's going to be? Like, where's it going?
Yeah. That first 10, I didn't pre-script how those first 10 episodes were going to be, cataloged as far as what the topics were going to be. Everything was quite organic. And so it was good to kind of just get good feedback as we went along. I personally resonated a lot, and I think a lot of other individuals did with, things like the Trail Testimony series. So I'm already,
that was a hit.
Again, cultivating, more of those to do down the road. There's always going to be something that's going to be a pivot that's worth responding to in real time, like the fun, Satisfy Nike controversy was a fun one.
Right. It's good.
Something like Black Canyon was fun to talk about, maybe in a unique way, again, not just picking who I think is going to win, but bring something that I think is valuable information, for the listener. So as these next Golden Ticket Series races comes up, maybe we cover them, maybe we don't. And then just getting back into more of the heady conversations, right? Like there's a lot that I'm going to unpack from the experience at Black Canyon that has nothing to do with Black Canyon, things that, just sharing with Elliot, that are valuable, like that I wish that everybody could have been a fly on the wall. Some of the conversations that we had at dinner, just hanging out and talking about the race beforehand that are applicable for the rest of us.
It's awesome.
So just kind of more of that same stuff that you saw in the first 10, and just never expect not to be surprised, I guess. We're going to keep it fresh.
Yeah. All right, man. I love it. Are you ready to take some calls?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Call run more 649 649. That's 786 667 3649.
Okay, our first call, this one kind of came in unconventionally. The guy sent a text with a video voice message that came to our phone number. I'm going to play it through my microphone.
Hey, Josh, my name's Frank. I'm in Seattle. Long-time listener, first-time caller. It's true. I know you dig that. I wanted to say it, but it's true, too.
Yes, sir.
I'm preparing some chili here on Super Bowl Sunday, but I've been thinking deeply for a while about what kind of message I want to send you, and everybody left the house to leave me alone for a little while, so now I have a chance. I have some background that might be of use to you, and I just wanted to raise my hand and say, how can I help? I'm a former small regional running magazine publisher, did broadcasting for 20 years. I do voiceover work. I'm a writer, storyteller. I do internal comms right now. I just have some skills that might be useful, and I'd be interested in helping out. I'll send you my LinkedIn and this message. And I just want to say I think what you're doing is cool, and I want to help build your community if I can. If you think it's worth, if I can lend a hand, I'd be happy to do it. So maybe we'll see what happens. I hope to hear from you.
Oh, that's amazing. Here's what I love about that. He's got a great voice. So broadcasting experience, cross country or coaching. Is that what you heard? Some sort of coaching experience.
Okay.
He gets the community, all of this. I think that's really, that's fun because those are all problems that we're poking at. Like we got this race league idea that's coming together. We want to help the commentating world, but we don't know any commentators necessarily. So
right.
Frank, we should talk. You have any thoughts there?
No. Yeah, well, see, again, if you don't ask, they won't come. And so
Right.
we've been, calling out again for those to raise their hands, who feel they've got the chops and the desire to do so. And yeah, man, that's awesome, man. I appreciate him doing that. Yeah,
there was a good 3 of you who reached out with thoughts on, I mean, brought Brian up to speed on this, with thoughts on how we handle our runner handicap for this league that we're kicking around. High level, we want to bring some competition. We want to bring some entertainment here. We want to, as races become too expensive, we're racing less. And so we're thinking, hey, how do we keep that competitive piece alive, that camaraderie piece alive? And so we're looking at this team trail running league, and people are raising their hands. So we're stoked. We're going to do more on that soon, but that's pretty awesome. All right, next call. I have not listened to these in advance, so I don't know what to expect. I wanted to come into him blind since Wolfie is too.
Hey, Josh and Wolfie. This is going on a joint episode with you guys too. I'm a primarily road runner in my mid-30s here in Phoenix area, and I was watching Black Canyon Ultra's 100K the other day. I couldn't help but notice at the finish line just how much media there was. Not sure if it's independent or more sort of corporate free trail type media these days, but so many people with cameras filming, running alongside the finishers, the elites at the finish. But there weren't many spectators. There weren't a lot of fans there. And so my question for you guys as a topic of debate is, do you see the future of trail running as more of an independent media-driven product or more of a spectator sport? And if you do want to make it more of a spectator sport, how do you go about doing something like that in a place like Arizona where, smaller population, et cetera? So curious to hear what you guys think about the situation, if you agree with my take. And keep doing the podcast. Love it. Thanks.
You want to take this one?
Yeah. In fact, God, that could be a whole separate Wolfie's world. So definitely going to jot that down to follow up in greater detail, because there's a lot of ways I could go on that. But essentially, the one limitation Black Canyon has, and maybe Jamil's going to problem solve for this, is the finish line. So the finish line is just a public trailhead, and that area is very limited with parking and just overall capacity. It's not nearly as wide open of a space as the other crewable aid stations, like nothing like Bumblebee or Black Canyon City, like we used to have, even less so than Table Mesa, which is the last one. And so what you end up having to do is park at some outdoor shopping mall and then take a shuttle bus to the finish line.
Oh,
okay. Wow. And so you don't get, it's not easy for spectators to show up. And so what you do see when the professionals are finishing are really just the crew, family, friends, and then the media at the finish line. So the finish line vibe is really subdued for a race that's had a ton of buzz and energy around it at every other crewable aid station. So that is a great call out. The finish line is a little bit more limited for fans who aren't connected to the elites to come and watch.
Yeah, I think someone who wasn't there, just my perspective on the industry in general, I've shared the story several times, but so the elevator version is, in 2019, I wanted to go see Jim run in person at Western States. And I just assumed that everyone, like I brought my, my Big 12 football fandom to the table. I just thought this is a fan is a fan is a fan is a fan. And so I thought, I got to get there way early. I get there a couple hours early. There's, 50 people, 60 people at the starting line. I could have showed up 5 minutes before. And same thing at UTMB a few years later, 2023. I get there. I want to, Zach still had not been passed by Jim, and I'm at the finish line 4 hours. Literally, I waited for 4 hours thinking I want to have a great spot. I could have showed up 15 minutes before and had the exact same spot. I think it's a matter of time. I think the downside to how accessible everyone is that you don't get that rock star vibe when you see them because they're all just so approachable. That's the downside. So I don't think you build that mystique of like, oh my God, I get to see this person in person. That's the downside to growing the fan side of things, but that's the upside to the sport being so cool. And so I don't necessarily say we lose that, but I think part of it is no one's blown away when they see them in person because they're just always out and about.
Yeah.
There's no rock star yet.
Yeah. And I think that's probably like 2 or 3 iterations of the sport down the road is creating events that are designed with the spectator in mind first, because there's some sacrifices you would have to make to the course and logistics that would appease the spectator and not the racer. So we're probably not there yet, but yeah, you could see that where, something like the PGA just was in Phoenix right now with the waste management, and that thing is taken off.
I was going to bring that up. The stands that they build.
Yeah. So everything there, I mean, they're cutting off alcohol sales at like 10 a.m. because people are going out of control with, getting wasted and just, creating debauchery. Right. And so like that tournament, the players know going into it is going to be unlike any other tournament. You're not going to get the hushed crowd for you when you're, taking your shot. And so there's, some compromises you make, but it packs it in, it raises money, it brings more eyeballs to the sport, and it creates a spectacle. So yeah, I think that would be the comparison of like, we would have to do something like that, make some sacrifices that might ruffle some feathers and, make the elites a little bit offset, but they would be compensated, right? Like, so again, like, would they tolerate some of those things like being mic'd up or where, they're pumping audio into the spectators arena when they're not there? You can still hear what the runners are saying. Yeah, they might, but they're going to want some prize money at the end of it or some appearance fees or something. So yeah, that could be down the road.
I mean, what I love about our sport, and we'll go to the next call, is Happy Gilmore, when he brought his audience into the arena of golf, so to speak, that already is ours.
Right.
Like we are already poised to be that party audience.
Right.
And so can you imagine one where where it is optimized for the spectator experience and there is 1,000 people like us at that finish line? Like, what a party. What an absolute enjoyable time.
Right.
Because I think also trail runners are not, on average, prone to debauchery. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible that there's not some dudes over here vomiting and, whatever. But the vibes of 1,000 people at a finish line in our sport would be like no other.
Right.
So someday. All right, next call.
Hey guys, it's Andrew from Calgary again calling in. Wanted to say, been listening to all the discussions you guys are having on the podcast on Bad Runners Take. Loving everything you guys are saying. When you're talking about the running league, I think of beer leagues here in Canada for hockey, and States that have them too, but how popular they are here for guys my age. I look at pickleball. My in-laws are obsessed with it, and they're competitive even, deep into their 60s. And
That's good.
I just can't imagine how there isn't something like this for trail running yet. As you talk about it, we talk about how do you handicap this. Age brackets are great. I think, self-proclaimed kind of tiers of leagues works well too. You can have the awesome league, the middle of the road, and the shit league. People can register where they want. And you can have, relegation that pushes teams up and down. I work in
I
IT,
love the relegation idea
all day long when I hear this sort of stuff. And I think it could be absolutely fantastic. When I think about kind of formatting for these races, teams, solos, relays, 2x2s, do you involve scavenger hunts? Do you bring in elements of orienteering? Do you lean into GPS watches and let teams compete at different trailheads throughout the season and you just score points as you go? Or do you have teams compete head-to-head? Do you have big events? Is it a mix? All of these things, I think, are just completely...
It's a long message. I'm going to let him cook. It's good.
Explored right now, and I love that you guys are having this discussion. And please, for the love of God, make this, because I want to buy it. That brings me to another point. Adam Curry does a podcast, no agenda. You don't need to listen to it. But he created something called Value for Value, where his listeners give time, talent, or treasure. I have talent. I work in IT. I love this stuff. I'd love to give it to you guys. I love these ideas. I'd love to help. I donate time. I donate money. I love this stuff. There's other guys like me out there. You guys are onto something. Please build it. If you need help, let us know. If you need people to buy stuff, I'm there for you.
That feels like he had one hand on each of my shoulders, one on the right, one on the left, and looking me in the eye saying, please, please do this. That's the sentiment that I've had from some other people. And I have tapped my friend Ryan Ramsby on the shoulder because I think he'd make an awesome commissioner. And I don't think that, I think the commissioner's, a figurehead. I don't know what he'll actually do, but there's been a number of people who have been like, hey, like that, not as intense as he did there at the end, who like, and these are like analytical type people. Like, we could build the handicap. We can use ultra sign up as the starting point, but we launch into it this way and this and that. I think that I don't know exactly how we'll do this, but I think we are running in the direction of doing it.
Yeah. And the answer is yes. Right. So he had a lot of questions there. The answer is yes to all of them. And just like we talked about with prize money, even if we just start with something, minimal, where we don't have to create all of these projects and infrastructure. If we just get here's the $500, right? We'll start there and we'll build it up. We don't need to, get paralysis by analysis. Clearly people just want this, right? And so the cleanest thing might just be, look, team format, you pick your team and you let it rip. And then we figure out the easiest point scoring. There's no handicapping, because teams are going to have varied talent levels across the board. Like you talk about these beer leagues, you're going to have guys coming in with, previous collegiate experience, high school team experience from 15, 20 years ago. Right. And then others are just, I picked up the sport in my 40s, and so that's what's great about it. We just keep it as simple as possible to get it off the ground and then fine tune it along the way.
I freaking love it.
Yeah. Another guy with talent saying, hey, not only do I want this, but I want to help, in any way possible. So it's awesome.
Yeah. And throw that out to anyone else. I mean, there's going to probably going to do like some sort of interest call, a Zoom thing with the number of people that are interested. And it's not only people who are saying they're interested, they're saying, this is my talent. Maybe we could use this. Right. And it's generally engineering, IT, analytical types who come to the table. But I'm with you. Yeah. Not going to get hung up on something that would cause us to launch in 5 months or 10 months. It's like, I did the Tequila Highway events for a while. I know that there's some demand around gamification and having fun with your buddies without it being an actual event.
Right.
You all are turning that volume up right now. And it just feels like, I think we've got a framework, and it's just a matter of us doing a couple more episodes on it, hearing from more of you calling in and making those sort of offers and talking about what your gifts and skills are.
At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the next call is Elon Musk saying he's got billions of dollars to throw behind this trail league and he just wants it.
I'm here for it. I'll take it, Elon. All right, last call.
Josh, what's going on? This is Dakota Smith out of Orlando. Just got done listening to the last podcast about leagues. So the way I see this and the way I think that it could possibly be broken down is you take, say, 6 to 8 of the nation's top races, and then you break them down into thirds based off of the population. And then it's a top third, a middle third, and a bottom third per race. And you pull the top, middle, and bottom for each of the different races. And then from there, that creates a team. So you're pulling a top competitor, kind of an average competitor, and the back of the pack competitor throughout all these different races and creating, say, a team of 6 or a team of 8. And then they're enacting themselves as like heptathletes or heptaathletes, like the Olympics. And how they perform, you give them a race. You're like, hey, the back of the pack guy, you're running Cocodona this year, or you're running Black Canyons this year, even though he might have never, or she might have never ran that in their life. But now they're expected to perform. and they get a score out of their race that encompasses all the different athletes' races throughout the year. And that is the team's score. And they get a golden ticket to, you know, the top race, Hard Rock or Western States or whatever it is. And that team competes in a relay at one of those races.
All right, here's what I love. Could we somehow build this league to be so credible that we could get some marquee race around the country to give free entry for the winner of our league into their race? Probably not going to be Hard Rock. Could be a Wasatch. Probably not going to be Wasatch. These heritage races don't want to do it. But could it be something? Could it be the No Business 100? Could it be some East Coast thing? I love that.
Well, look,
And the other thing is I can't imagine a scenario where where we're not paying our podium after all the shit we've talked. So, okay, you go ahead.
right. At least with Monopoly money, we're going to give some.
Right. Yeah, you're getting something.
But yeah, no. But again, yeah, this is another brilliant, idea that comes out of the ether, is that why wouldn't we be just as valuable as the elites are to the Golden Ticket Series and RDs who benefit from that league? If this grew from grassroots, where it's activating the 95, and they show passion and they show commitment and they show, again, that they are paying to participate in this league, right? Then any RD that comes alongside of this league is going to stand to benefit from it as well. It's just mirroring what's already being done with the Golden Ticket Series. So yeah, I mean, if you're an RD, you're hearing this, get on early, because we need those. we need to see this infrastructure start to take shape. But yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense that a race would want to come alongside that knows it's never going to be in the conversation for Golden Ticket, World Trail Major, probably never going to get a live stream from, Free Trail or Mountain Outpost, but wants to still be, engaged with the community. So that's cool.
Yeah. Man, I'm stoked on how many of those calls were about the league. When we go out here in just a minute, I'm going to play the phone number jingle again, just so that's in your head. Call us about the league. If you're stoked on the league, call us with any ideas. Try and keep those messages less than 60 seconds. Just helps us move through them a little bit quicker. But man, I love the energy that you guys are bringing. And on our end, we're going to honor that energy that you're bringing. And we're really putting our heads together to figure out how we do this and how quick we can get it launched in a way that we're putting out a good product here, so to speak.
Yeah, man.
Any final thoughts?
Dude, 10 episodes. I just want to thank you, man. You came alongside me, and you gave me the push that I need, the infrastructure and everything else. And so, grateful to have your support and the platform. And here's to another 10.
Yeah, let's keep it going. All right, man. See you next time.